Previously on Red Pilled America.
He's also been described as a conservative propagandist and a Tea Party loyalist.
You have no concern for the facts. You are so quick to make allegations about other people.
They pretend they're sort of creating the people's journalism. They don't even know what it is. They have no respect for it.
You're not a journalist or a commentator. You're a con man.
The black studies people, right? In other words,
then I'm racist.
You yourself have been up to skullduggery before. You stitched up Shirley Sherrod pretty spectacularly.
Do you think he's racist?
I think he's so vicious. Yes, I do.
As the legacy media were attempting to put Breitbart News out of business, one of their own had been building a reputation as a feisty congressman from New York.
It's Republicans wrapping their arms around Republicans rather than doing the right thing on behalf of the heroes. It is a shame! A shame!
Anthony Wiener was the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of his time. The talk was that someday he'd become the mayor of New York City, maybe even president. Largely because of his connections. Wiener was married to Huma Abedin, Hillary Clinton's longtime confidant and personal assistant. Former President Bill Clinton even officiated their wedding. So as Memorial Day weekend 2011 kicked off, Anthony Wiener was a big deal. After returning from a movie night, Breitbart News' employee number one was about to cross his path.
My email was filled with all these crazy emails about how Anthony Wiener, the congressman, had texted a picture of gray jockey shorts with a prominent bulge in them. He had tweeted that out and then immediately deleted it and announced that he was hacked. People were sending Andrew screen caps and saying this really happened, though it had been deleted from the internet and things weren't captured quite as easily at the time. So we weren't 100% sure if it was real because it was gone and it was hard to check right away.
So Alex convened with the Breitbart News team, Andrew Breitbart, Larry Solov, Joel Pollack, and John Nolte.
We were all on the phone just trying to make sure we got the story right.
And we've never done a sex scandal. And we don't want to do sex scandal. And this is going to look like a sex scandal. And Andrew, it was never Andrew's stock and trade. He's not a tabloid guy. But there was something that we all started to fixate on. And I was very vocal about this, that him tweeting that he was hacked was a massive problem. Because if a hacker is hacking into accounts of United States congresspeople and tweeting pictures of genitals, that is a story. That is not a sex story. That is a cybersecurity story now. And so we published.
And we released it, and it was totally clean. It was a perfect reporting. This is what he did. He sent out this picture, and then he claimed he was hacked, and that's all we reported.
Now, the mainstream media has a long-established strategy when stories critical of Democrats first sprout. In the old days, journalists would just ignore them. But with the rise of new media, they were forced to design a new tactic.
They started to attack Andrew, which was their playbook. They started to attack Breitbart, which is their playbook. And they start shooting the messenger and acting as though Wiener is the victim of all this.
Andrew Breitbart, a conservative blogger whose BigGovernment.com first reported the story, suggested to CNN there should be a, quote, forensic analysis to determine the veracity of Congressman Wiener's hacking allegation, which certainly bears criminal implications.
If Wiener had been hacked, why hadn't he contacted authorities? CNN's Dana Bash and Ted Barrett led the way.
You say that you were hacked, which is potentially a crime. So why haven't you asked the Capitol Police or any law enforcement to investigate?
Look, this was a prank that I've now been talking about for a couple of days. I'm not going to allow it to decide what I talk about for the next week or the next 2 weeks.
Now that the story had fully entered the news cycle, the gatekeepers embarked on a second attack on the messenger.
Andrew Breitbart, the conservative clown who thinks he's a journalist, what a joke, has done another fraudulent story as usual.
But it's also important to remember that the person who has been pushing this story the most is Andrew Breitbart, who has been consistently inaccurate.
The person who reported it, Andrew Breitbart, has a history of taking Democrats out of context and smearing them.
Breitbart is a proven liar.
I'm inclined to give him the benefit of the doubt because this originated with Andrew Breitbart.
Why would anybody take this fool seriously?
During the initial hours of Wienergate, when that small group of Breitbart editors were deciding on whether to publish the story, Breitbart CEO Larry Solov remembered that someone had sent them a tip about a week earlier, claiming to have compromising pictures of Anthony Wiener.
We had a tip email on the website from a guy who said that he had a friend who had developed a relationship with Anthony Wiener online. And we agreed that we were not interested in salacious personal stories about members of Congress, that we did not want to be that kind of website.
So as the story was blowing up, the Breitbart team was working behind the scenes to try and get in contact with the Texas woman that the tipster referenced. It was important to them for a simple reason.
I remember the main site that came after us was those scumbags at Mediaite, and they were attacking our story and claiming that it was a lie and we just made it all up, and that maybe we had hacked Anthony Wiener.
So the Breitbart team was on the hunt for this Texas woman to clear their name, because if someone else came forward with proof that Anthony Wiener sent them lewd images as well, the notion that Breitbart News hacked the congressman would come to an end.
So we were trying to get hold of the source, because the only proof was going to be whether the source came forward.
Finally, Andrew got in contact with the Texas woman. She sent him pictures that Congressman Wiener forwarded to her, and this time, the images included Anthony Wiener's face within the frame of the photo. Wiener was toast. As Andrew got on a plane to New York City to respond to the media firestorm, his team began slowly publishing these pictures.
Andrew started releasing them to get Wiener to admit that we weren't the hackers, essentially.
Andrew had a scheduled interview with a reporter at his NYC hotel, but to his surprise, on his arrival, the journalist was a no-show. Where was she? Andrew figured it out. Apparently, Anthony Wiener had announced a last-minute press conference at the Sheraton Hotel just a few blocks away, so instinctively, Andrew began walking to the Sheraton. He arrived at a hall packed with journalists waiting for Anthony Wiener to step to the podium, when journalists asked him to go to the front microphone. And what happened next became a defining moment in media history.
I'm here coincidentally. I just arrived at LaGuardia because of media requests, and as I got into my hotel, I'm Andrew Breitbart, by the way.
In the moment, Andrew thought he was only speaking to the room, but he wasn't. When Andrew stepped to the microphone, the broadcast networks went live to the world.
I think we were watching CNN, and they cut to this press conference, and there's Andrew at the podium, and everybody flipped out. Like, what is he doing? Even within Breitbart, like nobody knew what the heck had happened.
I've seen it. I've seen a lot of this congressman's body at this, and he's in very good shape.
And it was a surprise to us that Andrew had jumped onto the podium in front of international television cameras.
I want to hear the truth. I want to hear the truth from Congressman Wiener. Quite frankly, I'd like an apology for him being complicit in a blame the messenger strategy. I'm being accused of being the hacker against a congressman. He said nothing. He allowed for that to go. His minions perpetuated that false, malicious meme, and then he went on CNN to attack me. I feel he was complicit.
And he kept talking about how everyone was saying I'm lying. And name one lie.
The media says Breitbart lies, Breitbart lies, Breitbart lies, Breitbart lies. Give me one example of a provable lie. One. Journalists, one. Put your reputation on the line here. One provable lie.
I was jumping for joy. I could not have been more thrilled. It was literally one of the best moments of my life.
That's enough. Thank you very much.
What came next was the icing on the cake, as Anthony Wiener stepped to the same podium that Andrew left just a few minutes earlier.
At the outset, I'd like to make it clear that I have made terrible mistakes that have hurt the people I care about the most, and I'm deeply sorry. I have not been honest with myself, my family, my constituents, my friends, and supporters, and the media. Last Friday night, I tweeted a photograph of myself that I intended to send as a direct message as part of a joke to a woman in Seattle. Once I realized I had posted it to Twitter, I panicked. I took it down and said that I had been hacked. I apologize to Andrew Breitbart. I apologize to the many other members of the media that I misled. I apologize first and foremost to my wife and to my family.
In the moment, the congressman refused to resign, but a week and a half later, he did the inevitable.
I had hoped to be able to continue the work that the citizens of my district elected me to do, to fight for the middle class and those struggling to make it. Unfortunately, the distraction that I have created has made that impossible. So today I am announcing my resignation from Congress.
Andrew Breitbart was already a conservative media legend, but Wienergate thrust him and his news organization into the international spotlight. Breitbart News had arrived.
Over the next 9 months, Andrew enjoyed the victory. He promoted Alex Marlowe to managing editor, and the company began a site redesign. Everything was coming together for Andrew and his burgeoning news organization. But then, the unthinkable happened. On the last day in February 2012, the heads of Breitbart's editorial staff were in Los Angeles, and Andrew went about doing Andrew types of things.
And I think he took time off in the afternoon to go to the gym, and he had a new Vespa he was riding around town. So a lot of people saw him around town that day. And in the evening, he was having a drink.
Later that night, a Texas-based Breitbart News reporter, Brandon Darby, was talking to Andrew when his girlfriend called. So he jumped off the phone to talk to her.
And then when I called Andrew back, a woman answered his phone, and she identified herself as a police officer. And I was like, why do you have my friend's phone? And she was like, well, what is your friend's name? And I said, well, did he lose his phone or something? A guy named Andrew. She's like, Andrew who? And I was like, wait, who is this? Like, can I talk to my friend, please? And she was like, well, you're not going to be able to do that, but I can't talk about it. Can you just tell me who he is? And then right at that time, he told me to hold on, and then I heard the EMS workers arrive, and I could hear what they were saying. And I told her his name and his wife's name, and I just broke down because I heard what they were saying about him. He was, not alive. And so I called Larry Solov, and he didn't answer. It was such a shock. And then I called Joel.
And so Brandon called me, and I had just gotten into bed. It was 12:15 on March 1st. And, things unfolded from there.
And as Joel was trying to get me to calm down so he could understand what I was saying, Larry called me back, and I was telling Larry what happened. And then he told me that not to worry, that things are probably okay. And then he said, hold on, Susie's calling, Andrew's wife. And then he clicked back over to me, and it was very obvious that that's what happened. He had to go to the hospital, and he just asked me not to say anything anymore. So I just kind of laid there all night, hurting. And then about 4 or 5 in the morning, he called me, and he was like, hey, we lost Andrew.
And I learned about it in the middle of the night, 3:30 in the morning, got a phone call about it. I remember flopping on the bed and being completely distraught, but I didn't know how to process it also.
Conservative commentator and activist Andrew Breitbart died early this morning in Los Angeles.
At the time of Andrew's passing, Joel Pollak was the editor-in-chief and Alex Marlowe was the managing editor of Breitbart News. Many began to doubt that the news organization would be able to continue, but Andrew assembled an incredible team.
Ben Shapiro was there, Joel Pollak was there, Steve Bannon was there, Larry Solov was the leader of all of us.
Eventually, Joel Pollak turned his focus to reporting, and in October 2013, at just 27 years old, Alex Marlowe took over as editor-in-chief of Breitbart News. With the newly structured team set, they started taking on the GOP establishment. They saw illegal immigration as a core issue for America. So when June 16, 2015 arrived, it didn't take long for the Breitbart News team to see that a New York real estate mogul's presidential platform aligned almost perfectly with Breitbart News' audience.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us.
As the 2016 race for the White House progressed, every corner of the legacy media was looking to end Trump's candidacy, even Fox News.
Mr. Trump, one of the things people love about you is you speak your mind and you don't use a politician's filter. However, that is not without its downsides, in particular when it comes to women. You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
The Breitbart News team recognized his brash style.
I think the big problem this country has is being politically correct. And I said, we need to build a wall.
The fact that Trump's persona was someone who was the bull in the china shop, we needed that. This is part of why Andrew was so effective. Andrew was really cut from the same cloth. Andrew knew that we needed a bull in the china shop. Andrew was that bull, and then Andrew passed away. Now it's Trump. Trump is that bull. And that was Breitbart.com in a nutshell. That was what we wanted.
The influence of Andrew's small new media outfit reached a stratospheric level when Trump hired Breitbart News CEO Steve Bannon to get him across the finish line.
Donald Trump's campaign overhaul. Trump announced Wednesday Breitbart executive Stephen Bannon is assuming the role as campaign CEO.
A profile last year in Bloomberg Businessweek called Bannon, quote, the most dangerous political operative in America.
The scrappy organization that grew out of a basement in La La Land had grown to an unimaginable level of influence. And as Election Day approached, they couldn't have known that their dogged pursuit of the truth was about to pay off for Donald Trump in an unexpected way.
11 days to the election, the FBI director informing lawmakers he is reviewing new emails related to the Clinton email investigation.
Just days before Americans were to vote, FBI Director James Comey reopened the investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails. The news was shocking, but what was perhaps more stunning was the reason why.
Vlad, we've confirmed that this investigation into Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server has been reopened after investigators in a separate case received or seized devices during their investigation into Anthony Wiener and whether or not he was allegedly sexting with an underage girl. Now, they seized those devices in order to determine whether or not he was indeed communicating and what he was communicating. But on those devices, apparently, they also found emails that are related to Hillary Clinton's use of a private server.
Comey would exonerate Hillary for this new batch of emails just days before the election. But with the race closer than reported in swing states, the turn of events had already made an impact on Election Day.
We are going to make this decision now. The Fox News decision desk has called Pennsylvania for Donald Trump. This means that Donald Trump will be the 45th president of the United States, winning the most unreal, surreal election we have ever seen.
In the weeks and months that followed, Breitbart News was rightfully given credit as the media organization that carried Trump across the finish line to his unbelievable win, an accolade that even Hillary Clinton bestowed on the new media pioneer, albeit in a roundabout way.
What's the biggest cause of your loss?
I think the determining factor was the intervention by Comey on October 28. Observers like Nate Silver and others say yes, but for that intervention, I would have won.
Of course, Breitbart News set off the chain of events that led to Comey's actions by seeking the truth in the Wienergate hacking story. We know this because what led to the reopening of the case was a minor that was curious about Wiener's behavior first uncovered by Breitbart News.
How did you first come into contact with Anthony Wiener?
It was through a direct message on the application Twitter. I just sent him a nice message, just, hello, I'm a huge fan. I knew that Hillary Clinton would be running for president in the year 2016, and I wanted to see if Anthony was still up to the same antics.
Which leads us back to the question, who destroyed the legacy media? Well, the legacy media is responsible for its own demise. Its bias, lies, and hoaxes became its undoing. But the person that put the final nail in its coffin was Andrew Breitbart. Rush Limbaugh pointed out the elephant in the room. The mainstream media had a perverse liberal bias. Matt Drudge showed that the legacy media would ignore the stories that hurt the left. But it was Andrew Breitbart that ended the dominance of the Democrat media complex. Through his first big scoops, he developed a tactic to force inconvenient stories into the news cycle. With Wienergate, he revealed how the media not only ignored major stories, but actively worked to suppress them. Then posthumously, Andrew cleared the way for the biggest bull in the china shop to storm past the legacy media right into the White House.
My goal is to destroy the mainstream media as we currently know it, but I hope that my children's generation exists in a more fair and equitable media.
Well, you did it, Andrew.